Hey, well, welcome. My name is Vince Spampinato, and I have my co-host here, Tony Hakim. How you doing, Tony?
I'm really good, Vinny. How you doing this morning?
Excellent, excellent. We are the managing partners of NorthStar Insurance Advisors and FinalExpenseTeleversity.com. And today we wanted to come to you guys with the topic of why aren't more final expense producers getting into the telesales game? And Tony and I have been doing this now for going on almost 8-9 years. Would you say that's about right, Tone?
Yeah, close to 10 actually.
Close to 10 years. And the reality of it is over the course of the last 5 or so years, telesales has really caught traction. I mean, our company has exploded. We have been producing millions and millions and millions of dollars of final expense premium, 100% over the phone, but still today there is this huge gap between the amount of final expense producers that are doing it out in the field the traditional way, going face-to-face through traditional direct mail marketing, and the amount of agents that are selling exclusively over the telephone, whether they're with our organization or with another organization. The percentage of agents that are selling 100% over the phone is minuscule in comparison to those that are still selling in the field. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that and discuss what's preventing more agents from moving into telesales, from moving into the 2017 way of doing business. I mean, when you look at companies like Humana, United Healthcare, Colonial Penn, MetLife, all of these other companies that have these huge sales forces that just sell pretty much over the telephone, why aren't more people getting into final expense telesales if the technology exists, if the training exists, if the marketing exists? What is making people still want to get in their car and drive all around the universe to sell final expense insurance? Why is this insurance niche not moving like the term life insurance, the health insurance, the car insurance? Why aren't we moving? Why aren't we progressing? And so, Tony, with that being said, I mean, in your opinion, what are some of the reasons that are holding people back from getting into final expense telesales?
Well, that's a really good question. And let me start by asking another question, a rhetorical question, for just a moment here that many people typically are thinking about when it comes to final expense telesales. First one is it possible? I mean, is it realistic for a final expense customer who typically falls in the lower income demographics between the ages of 50 to 85, is it possible to gain enough trust on the phone with the customer where they're willing to give up their social security number and their banking information to obtain a life insurance policy? It's a question that I get quite often. And the short answer to that is yes, there's people doing it every single day. So as far as proving if that theory is possible, we have enough producers out there that are doing it to really just cut that theory out that it's not possible. So we know it can be done, right?
Especially when they're calling in from a television advertisement or they're calling in from an internet advertisement. I mean, they're calling us. So of course, they're going to be more willing to give that information out over the phone.
Absolutely. Now, what you're talking about, Vince, boils down to lead sources, and we definitely want to touch up on that because that's very important. And what you're talking about is if you're advertising on a TV commercial with getting an inbound lead, of course they're more prone to trust you because credibility is established immediately. Can a scam company advertise on television? Of course they can. But in the mindset of the customer, when they see it on TV, they're more prone to believe that this is real, it's legit, and I can trust them, compared to a company that is just cold calling and getting people interested from numbers in a phone book. that's when people become more leery and are more skeptical and not want to give out information over the phone.
Right.
So here's the reality, Vince. We know that it's possible, right? You've done it. I've done it. We got lots of producers that are out there doing it. But why aren't agents that are selling face-to-face the traditional manner who aren't making the amount of money that they want to make, what's preventing them from crossing over that line and seeing that the grass really is greener on the other side? And my answer to that question, Vince, really boils down to a 4-letter word called fear. It's fear of the unknown. It's the fear of the change of how they've been trained to sell and probably how they've sold their whole entire life. That limiting belief of wondering, is it really possible, and am I really able to do this?
Would you say, Tony, that some of that fear is being instilled in them from the traditional, I would say, big final expense carriers that are not willing to innovate, that are not really pushing into final expense telesales? I see in my own practice when I talk to agents, they are telling me that their managers and their uplines are telling them that telesales doesn't work, and they're giving them all of these falsehoods or these myths that the persistency is terrible, placement's terrible, and they're trying to scare them away from the telesales model because they don't offer it and they don't know how to do it. Would you say that that kind of fear is being instilled and that there's a lot of negativity around telesales out there on the internet?
Well, sure, and it's even a lot deeper than that as well. It's these same agencies that are instilling that kind of fear, because you're right. I mean, it's a lot more than that. It is the leads. The leads are so expensive when it comes to telesales, which is true. You know, placement and persistency is low, which that could be true too if you don't sell the product the right way. The way that they're instilling fear into the agents, all in reality could be very true statements if an agent isn't provided the right type of training to sell final expense over the phone. But my comment to that is that all applies to face-to-face sales as well. I mean, if you're paying $27, $28 for a mailer lead, or you're paying $450 for a 1,000-piece mail drop and get a low return on that, and then on top of that, you lack in the skill set to actually close deals, you're still taking on the same exact risk. If you don't understand how to underwrite people properly, if you don't understand how to really tie down a sale, if you don't really understand relationship building, what makes you think that your placement or persistency is going to be any higher selling face-to-face? Right. And so some of that fear mongers that are out there that are scaring people away, they're not telling the whole story. And the whole side of the story of that is placement and persistency and closing ratio and cost of leads and quality of business can be high no matter which way you sell, or it can be low any way that you sell. It's all dependent on the agent themselves.
And the training that they're provided as well. I mean, the biggest reason why most agents have low placement or persistency, whether it be field sales or telesales, is their lack of knowledge, their lack of training, their lack of follow-up. Those are the reasons. And it doesn't matter which way you sell. It's just, I believe that a lot of these companies that are out there that are traditionalists or that are traditional final expense companies that are not innovating, they're spreading lies and rumors about final expense telesales because they don't know how to do it, and they want to keep their agents in place. They don't want to lose them to something different that they don't offer. Now, lying is a strong word. I don't think that most people are liars, but I do think that they don't necessarily give telesales the credit that it deserves, and they make it sound a lot worse than it is, because telesales is indeed fantastic. It's been fantastic for us, right, Tom?
I mean, not only for us, it's been fantastic for the producers that we have. I can honestly tell you that I've seen more six-figure producers in our organization than I did when we were a face-to-face organization, where we've literally had thousands of agents contracted with our agency, and that's going back about 10 years ago when we had that. And the reason for that is really boils down to proper leads and proper training. And, you know, I want to make sure that I'm clear when I say this. Selling insurance face-to-face, it works. I mean, you literally can do it. I don't agree with it personally. I've sold it face-to-face. I don't like that style of selling because I think it's inefficient with travel time, traffic, no-show appointments. I mean, I don't find it in an efficient manner. But really more so is when you look at other organizations, I mean, I think back 10, 15 years ago, whenever you wanted something, you walked into a store, right? I mean, you wanted to go buy a computer, you walked into Best Buy. Well, all of a sudden now Circuit City is closed down. Best Buy is on its verge of shutting down because people work and operate in a different way now. And to simply just state that final expense customers are any different is not only a derogatory statement to our clientele, it's just flat out wrong. And I can prove that, as can you.
Right, right. Yeah, so I mean, that's one of the reasons I feel that a lot of agents aren't moving into the telesales market, is because not only are they afraid, but they're being misguided. They're being told things that are not necessarily true about final expense telesales, and so therefore they're staying status quo and they're not getting any better. They're not seeing any different results. So Tony, would you say that on the flip side to that, a lot of agents don't know about telesales yet? They may be a newer agent, and because there's so much information out there about the old school way of doing it, it kind of drowns out the telesales way of doing it. It hasn't been around as long, and so a lot of people just don't know about it. So if you're a new agent, it behooves you to really look into telesales, because telesales is the way of the future. I mean, just look at every other company out there that's doing business now. It's all done virtually. It's all done over the telephone. What makes you think that final expense isn't going to go that way? I mean, Tony, you know that we have carriers that are calling us every single day, beating down our door, asking us to pilot their new telesales products, right? Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Vince, let me just make sure people know for a moment here. Not just insurance carriers, very, very credible insurance carriers that are dominating a face-to-face production, that are calling us because they recognize and they know that telesales is the way that it's headed to. And just like a lot of individuals, they're fearful as well too. I mean, they're fearful in this uncharted territory of telesales that they've never been in before. And so they don't want to launch it out to the public because they know that if they're not careful, it can result in a lot of bad quality business. It can result in some clean sheeting. It can result in a lot of negative things for the carrier. So they're skeptical and they're scared. You know, they're fearful themselves because they want to be careful. But when they see an established organization like ourselves, and they know how much production that we're doing over the phone, and on top of that, this is to not to brag here on numbers, but they see the quality of business through our placement and our persistency and the quantity of business that we do. That's enough for them to know, my goodness, this is possible. And if we don't start making a change ourselves, we're going to be the next Circuit City. We're going to be the next Nokia. That's what's going to happen.
The next AOL or what? Yeah. So folks, if you're new in the business, you know, look at the different opportunities. We're not saying that telesales is for everybody, but it is going that way. Just look at how companies operate today. You got Amazon. You got all of these companies operating over the phone and through the internet. So Tony, the last thing that I want to talk about before we wrap this up is a lot of agents aren't moving into telesales because of their lack of knowledge on how to actually do it. So you can't blame somebody for not wanting to try something if they don't know how to do it, right? There's not a lot of companies out there that actually have credible training platforms that can train somebody up. And unfortunately, most of the industry has been brainwashed into believing that you got to go out and get the highest possible contract and then go and buy your own leads and run your own business and do your own thing, right? It's been beaten into insurance agents' heads for the longest times. And so all of these IMOs are competing over insurance contracts, who can give the highest insurance contract and all that kind of stuff. And then when they come into an organization like ours and they see it completely opposite, it's run completely the opposite way, it can kind of freak them out. But then they go out and try to do it on their own with no training. And of course, what happens? They don't succeed. They fail, right? Because they don't know where to get their leads. They're overspending on leads. They don't know how to sell the product properly over the phone. They're selling based on price as opposed to value. They're not buttoning up their deals, and so they're having conservation issues and all kinds of placement issues and persistency issues. And so then what ends up happening is they go out on the internet, and some of them, unfortunately, talk bad about telesales, and it was simply because they couldn't find the proper training. Had they been involved with an organization that could have trained them up and provided them with proper marketing, chances are they would be successful like so many other people are working in the industry, especially in our platform.
Yeah. What's interesting, Vince, is I remember when I sold face-to-face, I followed a traditional route. I got appointed with like 10 or 15 different carriers. I walked into a house, and I mean, I was like a price buster. That's all that I did. I went to go find the cheapest rate that I can, and I was just replacing policies left and right. And what I failed to recognize at that time is customers will leave you the same way they come in. So if you have a 10-minute presentation where all you do is bust the price that they have and replace your policy, when somebody walks in behind you at something cheaper, they're going to leave you the same exact way that you left them. And it wasn't really sales. I was kind of like an order taker. That's how I felt at the time. And I thought in terms of sales. I didn't think in terms of building a business. And that's the biggest difference when it comes into final expense telesales. And the way that we teach agents is really to be truly trained salespeople. And I can't share with you how many emails I've received from people that have told us the way they came in and the way they are now is like two different people, because the way that you truly train a salesperson is how to close a sale, really regardless of what product that you're selling. I'm truly convinced that our organization, Vince, our call centers, that if we shifted gears and shifted products and started selling auto warranties over the phone, or started selling stocks or mortgage protection or any other product, using the same exact skill set that we teach the agents now, that they can literally take any product and perform at the same caliber of level that they're doing right now, because they're truly trained sales reps and not just order takers going to the home and just replacing policies. It's completely different.
Right, yeah, absolutely. So folks, those are some of the reasons why we see agents not getting into telesales. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have more questions, or if you want to learn more about final expense telesales, feel free to go to our website, NorthStarIA.com. Go to our Facebook page at NorthStar Insurance Advisors, and we're going to post our email addresses down here if you want to shoot us a message. We hope that this was helpful. Make it a great day, and we'll see you again soon.